And they're off. So here we have Highlander GCB versus Melis. We've already seen one match from Highlander, but I think this is Melis' first match in this tournament. Both off to a strong start here. Area 1, pretty straightforward. A little bit of lag reduction to be done here, but for the most part it's just a matter of killing these flying enemies. They are a little bit random which way they go, but usually you can kill enough of them that you can keep the lag down. This swimming section, it's really hard to speed up. You're pretty much just limited by the vertical direction and then by the horizontal direction once you pass a certain point, so just making sure you cross that point where the limiting dimension changes over as tightly as possible is really the only key there to going fast. In the overhead dungeons, overhead level 1 dungeon, we see a little bit of a variation in which enemies people kill, but for the most part everyone does this about equivalently time-wise. You might see different enemies spawning on different people's screens. Sometimes that P power-up there that's on Highlander's screen for a moment isn't there because it gets despawned by having other enemies around. Important thing though is you gotta kill 2 of these little cybernetic skull faces, whatever these things are. You gotta kill 2 of those to pick up your missile drops. Those are the triple shot missiles, which are going to get quite a lot of use in Area 3 and a couple other places. Boss defeated, I think. Oh, Melis didn't start his timer, it looks like. Oh well. But I'm pretty sure that Highlander caught up quite a bit there. I think Melis' stream started before Highlander's, at least from what I saw. And now they're almost neck and neck. So I think that means Highlander gained some time. Coming up on the wall face, closest thing this game has to a mini-boss of any kind. Really, there's a couple different ways of doing it, but 1 shot from your blaster and 2 shots from the triple missiles will kill it. You can also do a bunch more shots from the blaster and 1 shot from the triple missiles. I find that the former is an easier strategy, but people do it different ways. This area here is pretty fun. A few things you have to remember. Well, so far we don't have any caterpillars, but once we get to the caterpillars, you have to remember those things are lower to the ground than most enemies. So you can't shoot them when you're on the ground. You got to get them as you're jumping up onto the ledge they sit on. That one caterpillar Melis just jumped over happens to be in a convenient spot that you can hop over it without taking any damage if you time it right, and if you know your tank's hitbox, which is much narrower than it appears. This room that Highlander just went through is probably one of the more tricky ones in Area 2. A lot of Area 2, although it's got some nice platforming to it, isn't really too risky. But in that lava room back there, you can actually get knocked into those lava pits, and I've seen even good players, really good players, lose runs just getting knocked into those lava pits. But Melis seems to have picked up some time here, and he is considerably pulled ahead of Highlander in Area 2. already pretty much entering this boss chamber, or this boss dungeon. There's very little to optimize in this particular dungeon, other than just getting good door pauses. You need to take some deaths at some point before Area 3, so we saw Malice took some damage on the spikes. We may see Highlander do the same. This is a pretty popular area for people to use up some of Jason's health. Highlander choosing not to take damage there, actually. Malice is looking for an intentional death right here before the boss fight, which is a pretty smart place to take one, because you are rather low on health after boosting through all the spikes to cut the corners in this dungeon here. So that's a nice quick way to take a life away. Highlander might do the same, we'll see. No, he's going right into the boss with that amount of health. Malice gets the grenade pause successfully. Highlander also... Oh, okay, there we go. Was a little unsure at first, but I think he's got it. Both the players making their way out now. It's time to head back towards Area 1. Or, I mean, back towards Area 3, rather. Area 3 is where we're going to end up getting the hover, which is going to open up path to Area 4, etc. Mel's just about to enter Area 3. So this first room here, we see Mel is taking the low road. That is actually the way most of the top players are doing it nowadays. You can take, there's a couple different ways you can take through this room. The lower route, the bottom route seems to be preferred now. Mel is making his way through sometimes tricky room. It really depends. Now he's going to the right around those tanks. We see a lot of players go to the left, and I think going to the right's safer, although you're a little bit slower, a little bit out of your way. Yep, Highlander pulling off the move that that you normally see there, going left and then jumping in between those tanks' bullets. Both these players playing really well, I gotta say. The way they handled this vertical room, Highlander just completed. That is a really tricky room to do properly. Just the timing on using those missiles to kill those pods is pretty tricky, and doing that without triggering those pods to drop their bombs everywhere, which is really bad. That's, again, a big challenge, so that's a hard room. And then Melis in probably the laggiest room of all in this area. Bunch of stuff you have to remember about getting slightly better spawns in here. One of the things you want to do is keep the screen scrolled up as high as you can. See, you see both of these players have the floor cut off. You can't see the floor when they're going through this room. And that is to prevent certain enemies from spawning along the very bottom, which would cause a lot of lag. And Highlander making short work of this other vertical room. Yep, Mel's showing good missile usage there. So far, I'm quite impressed with both of these players. They're both got real solid runs going. They clearly know the strats. I mean, I'm seeing them do pretty much exactly what I would be doing in almost every case. So I'm happy to see that. Melis coming into the boss room. I did not really check his life count. I assume he's got one more death that he's going to take. And Highlander did not take a death in the Area 2 boss dungeon. So I think he's either going to need to take an extra death here somewhere, or he's going to end up losing a little bit of time after the boss. I guess just playing a little safer. We've seen what a jerk photophage can be. So having another life there is Mellis taking that intentional death, and we'll probably see Highlander take one more intentional death and still have an extra life left over in case he messes up the boss fight. Which, if you watched the last race last night, you see that boss can indeed be a real stopper if you're not careful. Why are they trying to lose lives? Well, in this game, when you game over, you can continue, and it will warp you back to the beginning of the area where you game overed. So, in a speedrun context, that's very helpful because it lets you cut out a lot of backtracking. But in order to do that, you need to very efficiently use up your lives so that you're not wasting time just standing in one spot, getting hit by spikes until you die. So these characters are really trying to, or these players here are really trying to get their character's health down to as low as they can. And see right there, Mellis just death warped back to the beginning of Area 3 and is coming into Area 2 now. And in Area 2, he's about to do the same thing. He had a great photophage fight, by the way. And Highlander having a little trouble with it, but it looks like he was able to make it through first try. And he can take a quick death here. And I think he's still got one more life to burn off. Couple of lives to burn off here. He was playing it really safe, coming into that boss with lots of lives. And Mellis again beats back to Area 1. Taking several more deaths to take him back to the beginning of Area 1. And now we're going to see some actual gameplay from Mellis. He needs to farm for 3 hovers. You need a minimum of 3 H drops. You can get them from the sine wave flyers. And this is a little bit of randomness. We don't know where these things are going to spawn. Sometimes they'll go on a coffee break and they just won't spawn at all. You'll be sitting there for, it seems like forever with nothing. But it looks like they're being cooperative for Mellis, and Mellis jumps into the pit to take an intentional death again, which warps you all the way back over here to the left and saves you a little bit of backtracking time and uses up a life, which is going to be helpful because they're going to be doing another continue warp, or game over warp, whichever you want to call it, coming up after Area 5. So that's why it's exceptionally beneficial to you do that death warp plus getting rid of the extra life. Yeah, Jason dies from fall damage at just a little bit more of a distance than he can jump. Like, he can jump this far, but you know, a couple pixels farther than that, he's dead. It's pretty pretty silly. Okay, so here we see our first door wrap. So the trick here, see right there, good stuff. The trick is you start to walk through that door, and just as Jason's momentum is about to carry him into the door, you turn around, do a really quick turn on the D-pad, and walk away from the door. And the game starts to put you through the door, except because Jason is facing the wrong way, he's facing away from the door that he's trying to go through, the game gets confused, and it actually pushes him over in the other direction, which lets you warp through that wall. And it does some cool stuff, like what you saw Mellis do there. He did 3 of them in a row, and that shifted all of the hitboxes over, so he was able to glitch past those bricks that you would normally need the tank to shoot your way through. Highlander, I did not see what happened to Highlander. I saw that he had a death, and now he's back to 0 hover. That was a pretty rough farm. Indeed. Well, Mellis making his way through the swimming section. A lot of lag in this area, so you have to know which enemies to kill to reduce that lag. It looks like Mellis is using the optimal strats, or at least the strats that you'll see the top tier players using right here. What we call the lagless room, that room has a ton of lag, so there's a couple different methods, but what you saw there is currently what we think the best method is. Oh, Highlander having a death with that hover right there on the screen. The third hover that he needed was right there. Very unfortunate. This hover farm is getting the best of him. And Melis making his way in here, taking some intentional damage. He wants to get through this door, almost dead, so that he can die immediately from this little shooter up here at the top. And Melis is on his last life, so he's got to be pretty careful. That's what he wanted. He wants to be down to his last life after he defeats the crab boss. Highlander again, 0 hover coming into this farm. He'll get it though. Alright, Melis about to do the boss. What we do here is something we call the crab glitch. The idea is you want to be able to exit the boss room while after the boss is spawned. So you need to you pause just as the fade out happens, and that tricks the game. Oh, he's got to get over there. Okay, good. Yeah, it tricks the game into letting the door still be active. Normally that door is disabled once the boss spawns. But if you can somehow trick the game into letting you go through that door, you end up in this glitched room, and you can fight the boss much more easily, much more quickly than doing the boss normally. And you see Melis did that successfully, takes his game over, continues with the tank at the beginning of the swimming area. Oh, I switched backgrounds a little too early. But and he's able to use that swim power-up that he just got, which is the sequence item needed to reach Area 6. Melis making his way up to the key skip. There we go. Good key skip from Melis. Or, sorry, not Melis. That was Highlander. Highlander on the left. Just got a great key skip, and he's about to go for the 3 screen wraps here. Let's see how quickly he gets these. Doing these screen wraps in the swimming sections is slightly easier than doing it on land, because you can use Jason's momentum as he's coming down from swimming to sort of buffer your direction change, which is the hard part of the trick. And there we go, he pauses and unpauses to reset the hitboxes that have been shifted over by the screen wrapping. So now he's back inbounds and everything is as it appears to be. Melis making his way through the ice area. There's ice physics in most of these rooms, but not all of them. And he's going through a room that if you had hover, you could take a little shortcut through that wall there, but we don't in this category. But yeah, this room, there's lots of little optimizations you can make to it, but the main thing is you don't want to fall in this section that Melis is in right here. We've seen that, I think, twice so far in this tournament. Falls in this room shouldn't even be one of the hard ones, or one of the risky ones at least. Now the room that Melis is in, this is the one that everyone worries about falling in. And Melis is doing the jump. Yep, he does that lower jump. Very risky. If you miss that jump, you're going to be set back anywhere from 20 to 40 seconds, depending on exactly what you do to recover from it. Of course, you have to have an ice physics level. Of course, there's got to be a water level and an ice level. It's a Nintendo game. Alright, this room here, probably it's top 2 among the trickiest rooms in this area. Maybe one of the harder ones in the game. I'd say it's definitely top 10 for hardest rooms in this game. And be the hardest or second hardest in this whole area. This room here being the other one for contender for hardest rooms to do right in a speedrun in Area 6. And Melis is through it. He's finally into the last room of this area, taking a death. That's a nice convenient spot to take a quick death. Highlander doing a little bit of cleanup because he's about to do the crab boss fight. And he's going to be, glitching his way back out into that corridor, so he's got to clear the enemies out. He's doing a full-on pause strat, not going to do any of the walking up and down. He's just going to listen for an audio cue and just do nothing but pause. And he does manage to get it. And a nice clean crab boss fight for him. Melis, I think, is planning on taking another intentional death here on the spikes in the next room. He doesn't want to take that death too early because then he has to repeat that room. But there we go. Death on the spikes. Down to his last life, so be a little bit careful from here on out. This spot right there, that slippery little ice patch, we've seen claim some runs. Last night, one of our players was died there twice, I believe. I myself have also ended up slipping on that ice patch and getting bounced back and forth between those two spikes until I'm dead. It happens to all of us. Melis with a great grenade pause. Listening for an audio cue to know when to unpause, and then he gets into position to collect the item. Good stuff. Highlander struggling with a pretty tricky little narrow jump that you need to make your way in there. I get that maybe only about 50% of the time. It's real tricky to squeeze in there efficiently. Mel's already done with the boss. Back in area 5, taking an extra death here. It's going to do one more, I would think. There it is. And that means that when he comes back into area 4 in a moment, he's going to be able to use up his last life really quickly. The reason this continue right here, this game over and continue, is necessary is these guys have both skipped the area 4 boss, which gives you the key. And without the key, you cannot go back through this door. There's no return method way through. So you have to take a game over to get back. Infinite continues. Yes, in the Japanese version of the game, there are infinite continues. One of the advantages of playing on the Japanese version, that's why one of the reasons why we're using it in this tournament. So you do a lot more game over warping in the J version than US version, which only has, I believe, 4 continues. So you have to sort of pick and choose what are the most important game over warps. And Highlander taking the high road there. Some people do what we call the leap of faith, which is making a relatively tight timing window jump, where if you miss it, you end up falling all the way down and having to either take a death or take a long, circuitous way back. So Highlander choosing not to take that risk, and you only lose if you do it right a fraction of a second. So the safe strats are perfectly acceptable in that area, especially in a race. Now let's make his way back into Area 2, because he's on his way to Area 7. Now that he has the Wall 1 upgrade, he can climb walls, which is the sequence item needed to reach Area 7. Highlander made his way through an ice block room that really, like I said before, one of the hardest rooms. We saw even Shining Dragoon, one of the best Blaster Master players, getting completely stuck there in a run yesterday. He was there with low health, and he was in a spot where there were spikes above him, spikes below him, and he just couldn't move his tank anywhere without taking damage, and he had to take an unintentional death. And let's see how Melis deals with, or sorry, how Highlander deals with this ice block room. A little trouble there, but he manages to get through. That's a tough room to do correctly. Melis now going up the wall, making use of that Wall 1 upgrade. He did not pick up the hover, so he's going to have to go all the way up to the ceiling and deal with that one enemy, which he managed to kill. We've seen that enemy there actually knock you all the way down. If it hits you, knocks you off the wall, and you can fall all the way back down, which is one of the biggest non-fatal time wastes that can happen to you. Of all the things that can waste time without killing you, that and maybe falling off the ceiling in Area 3 are probably the worst things that don't kill you. Well, Melis in Area 7, going to the right, which means he's not going to do the trickier version of the Area 7 skip. We'll see if he does this, the second part of that skip, though, which is much more race safe than the first part. This is a sweet, sweet game. I agree. This was always one of my favorites as a kid, and I'd say it definitely belongs on a top 10 list of best NES games. Highlander. Oh man, he recovered. Okay, so Highlander missed the initial grenade shot, and generally, look at that. There was a projectile in the air right in front of him. He's got 1 health left. He was really close to being screwed there. Skin of his teeth. Highlander makes it through that boss fight. Had an extra life, so he did have a cushion there. Often when players get to that boss, they don't have any extra lives, so exceptionally dangerous. But now Highlander's on his way. What? Not quite. Yeah, using some wall 1 by accident. It's pretty easy to accidentally trigger the wall upgrades in this, one of the unfortunate features. Now, Malice, here's the room. He's hopping out of the tank. Okay, so we're going to see an Area 7 skip going on. He is going to do this door wrap 4 times. You can actually do it in 3 times. You can do it in 5 times. It depends. Really depends on which version of the trick you're going to do. Most people do 4. Now he's going into this room here. You're crouching. You see him crouch as he sort of shimmies his way off that ledge there. And he's doing that to reduce fall damage. So when Jason's crouching and then he walks off a ledge, alright, pause and unpause. He's in. Excellent. And he takes a death to refill his health there because he used up all his health. Let's see if he gets the lava skips and then I'll explain a little bit more about what happened. Ooh, in the drink. I think that's his last life, so he's got to get it this time. Do the safe version of the skip, please. No, see, that's one. Can't be too hasty with this. If you're on your last life, you just got to slow down and use the slower method. It's really tricky to do the no-stop method there. Yeah, Mel's got to go all the way back. Fortunately, he's got a hefty lead on Highlander at this point, but that lead is not going to stand up to another mistake like that. Okay, so what was happening there, though, is we were doing that screen wrap, and because he screen wrapped enough times, you are actually able to go over into the next room. And so he went to the next room and then went back to the left again, and that actually cuts you right into the very last room of this dungeon, and you can go, or of this area rather, and you can go straight into the boss dungeon from there. And it's tricky to pull that trick off, but he got it no problem, and it was actually just the lava skips that killed him. It's tricky to pull off for the first few times, I'd say. Once you know how to do it and you have all the visual cues figured out, because you know your hitboxes are not going to correspond to the tiles sets that you see anymore. You're not going to be able to know where the ledges are unless you memorize, you know, just how the map has been shifted. But once you have a handle on that, there's not too much execution involved. There's no real tight windows that you have to hit. Highlander showing off how to do that room with hover. Just use a little hover near the top. Melis had skipped the hover. Highlander went for it. Alright, Melis going at it again. He's going to screen wrap 4 times. And that's going to shift the map enough that he can actually get through a wall here. Go, there we go. And he goes this way through the door, but now he's going to go back through the wall to the left. A little crouch to drop off those ledges. Can't take too much damage here, but yeah, the screen's been shifted enough that he can get through this wall to the left. Pause and unpause resets that shift. Intentional death to get your health back, so he is going to go for the lava skips again. Take some time to line it up because it's so risky, but he gets first 2. Third one's a little bit easier than the first 2. Let's see if he gets that. Yeah, no problem. And this 4th lava skip coming up is probably the easiest of all. All you do is hold up on the D-pad, and it all happens on a fixed timer that's all screen position based, so you're always going to get the same pattern out of that robot guy. Frog boss time. This is I think the easiest way to fight him. Fight him from above. facing downwards. There we go. One grenade pause is all you need. You just got to make sure that the frog doesn't hit you with a bullet at the same time you're hitting him. And there we go. He unpauses at the right time, and now he's going to take a quick death in the lava. So we're back in Area 2, making our way to the final area. Oh, we see Highlander went by the room where you'd normally do the skip, so Highlander not planning on doing that screen wrap skip. Probably worth it not to do that skip at this point if you're Highlander, because even if you had succeeded in doing the skip, he's still going to be far enough behind that Skip's not going to win the match for him, or not going to win the race for him. The only thing that's going to win the race at this point is Mellis having a really unfortunate death. Maybe a game over in Area 8 would do it. And if that happens, Highlander just wants to make sure he consistently gets through this level so that he's not going to lose any more time, so that he can take advantage of a mistake on Mellis's part. So if he were to screw up making that skip, that would put him out of range, even for something unfortunate happening to Mellis. Alright, going on the ceiling here. This is another spot where a non-fatal mistake can end up costing you maximum amount of time. Getting knocked off the ceiling by one of those flyers. It happens to all of us at some point or another. Highlander taking the long way around. Oh, wait, no, he's not. I don't know what I'm thinking. Highlander's coming up here into the boss fight just as Mellis enters Area 8. Hoping to get a hover drop from that pink caterpillar, but he did not. That was his last chance to get a hover drop, so he's going to have to do the spike room hoverless. Neat little turnaround on the spikes there that Mellis did. Highlander with the death on that frog. I think he was a little too far down, and the butt of the frog doesn't hurt you. Frog butt is harmless, except he pushed it too far. He went down a little bit too far. Okay, Mellis doing the spike jump. Well done. So what happened right there, because Mellis didn't get the hover drop, he couldn't hover over that spike pit. Oh man, Highlander in a rough way. Wait, these guys are both in really difficult spots right now. Highlander really having a rough cleanup on this frog. I think he's dead. He has another life, fortunately. But Mellis making his way through what we call the hardest room in the game, and he did it exceptionally well. I'm really impressed with Mellis's play. No, Highlander, he got the right spot, but he double KO'd. The problem is, with his grenade pause, is the same thing works back against you. Not only do your grenades continue to damage the boss while you're paused, but the boss continues to damage you while you're paused. So he happened to have been taking damage when he paused there, and it just killed him. Mellis making his way through the large intestine here. Final room of the game that matters. This actual last room here is pretty trivial. What's Mellis's PB time? Is a good question. Mellis has a 32:40, which is pretty solid time. Highlander, I don't even see a time from Highlander on this leaderboard, so I'm not sure. And Mellis going strong against the first form of this boss. Looked like his positioning may have been a little bit off, so this boss took longer than it needed to. And he's going with the actual optimal strats for this. He's not going to take the lower right safe corner strat. He's going to do the flashing pants strat. So he's got to mash just fast enough that this boss can't hit him back. It doesn't require exceptional mashing, but to be able to keep it up for the amount of time it's necessary without letting up is kind of tricky. But Malice does manage to finish. Let me see what the SRL time was. 34:49 is what it's showing in the race time, and that's going to be maybe an extra. Maybe an extra 10 seconds or so of comparing SRL time to character control time. So, Malice has scored a point. We're now 1-0. Malice over Highlander so far. No frog ending. So yeah, the ending screen there, a couple differences. One is that the crumbling castle is got a different sprite in the Japanese version, and there's no frog. The whole frog story was added when they localized this to North American version, and they took that screen at the end there, and they just popped a frog to it. Okay, looks like we got another race channel. All right, we're just getting the contenders into this next channel so we can get going. Okay, looks like the racers are ready. And they're off. Hey, we got a timer from Melis this time. Okay, second race here. Not really very much going on in this first room, just a certain pattern of flyers that you want to kill to minimize the lag, but other than that, you're pretty much just leaving the enemies alone. You know, a few golems, a few flyers, and the rest of them are okay. This room here, it's mostly those flying enemies that you want to get rid of. They're generally the big culprits for lag. Melis, I mean, it's hard to tell if these are showing a different start time, but I think Melis did that a little bit quicker. Going into this door at, I don't know, that was like 102 or something like that. Yeah, maybe a second ahead of Highlander. How about we change backgrounds? That would be helpful. Hello, Toad. Let's see. Did that thing not spawn? Okay, there's an enemy there that didn't spawn, which I was expecting to see. Alright, killing 2 of those skulls to get missile drops. Sometimes, possibly due to lag, maybe just due to too many sprites on the screen, sometimes one of those missiles won't drop, and that'll be a bit of a hindrance. Can't do all the strats that you want to do if that's the case. We see these guys fighting what we call Mother Brain. Highlander getting kind of a bad pattern, though. He also was standing a little bit maybe too far to the left, so even if he had gotten the good pattern, he might still have had a 3-cycle. Mel's done with the boss, and Highlander done with the boss. Now it's back to the tank. Sometime, eventually, hopefully, someone will find some way to skip this part of Area 1. I mean, not that it's bad, but just anytime you can find ways to save time in the game, it's a cool new addition to the route, and there is a, you know, a skipless category of the game as well, so there's a way to play it competitively and still see all the areas that we're skipping. So yeah, we were talking about this the other day. There may be a way to hopefully eventually skip that wall face, but so far we still have to do all this. Area 2 again. So this, basically the trend in this game is you want to learn all the enemy spawns and you want to shoot in advance of the enemy so that you can kill the enemy the moment it comes onto the screen, or as close to that as possible, reducing as much lag as you can. Generally you want to kill off all the enemies that you can because it's going to be reducing lag. There's a few exceptions to that. Oh, the vertical shot there from Melis, that's a cool little trick. And this room right here sometimes gives trouble to players, but no problem in this case on Melis' screen. And Highlander is about to do that room. Not bad. So, both players in the same room for the moment. And that moment's passed. Another tricky room to do right, this one here on the right side of the screen. I don't know if anybody does that thing anywhere close to the speed that the task can do that room. It's a tough one to optimize. Melis with a commanding lead entering the Area 2 boss dungeon. He's going to, I think, take some extra damage here. Yep, he's taking some damage on those spikes. He's going to go for an intentional death right before the boss. And that is because we are pretty soon coming up on a continue warp, or game over warp, whichever you'd like to call it. And there we go, Mel's coming into the boss fight. Grenade pausing here. Just a matter of... Oh, he starts grenading a little earlier than some people do. That's fine, though. That's probably the safest way. Just do a constant stream of grenades and worry about timing your start button press. Highlander about to do the same thing. And he gets it. So then he just needs to know when to unpause. You can use an audio cue for that. And he's through it. So now both of these players headed over to Area 3. In order to reach Area 3, you need the Crusher Beam, which is the reason why the shots coming out of your tank are flashing. That means they are able to break blocks, and that is the sequence item needed to reach Area 3. You gotta shoot through some blocks. 12-second lead, okay. Mel's with a 12-second lead then. You think closer than that? Alright, but there he is making his way, shooting through those blocks into Area 3. Construction zone area. I'm not really sure what it's supposed to be called, but it looks like a construction zone. Maybe it's a warehouse. It's pretty much every Nintendo game had to have a warehouse level. Or a factory, one or the other. In this room that Melis is in, you want to shoot at those flyers, even though you don't need the hover that they drop. You want to shoot those flyers to get them to drop a hover, because having that hover power up on the screen when you leave that room will despawn a pretty annoying enemy in the next room, one that is the source of a lot of lag. So we actually like to get a hover drop and then ignore it, so that you can go through that door and despawn the enemy. And Highlander doing the tank room. No problem for him. Using the missiles to take out those pods. A tricky room to get right, so good job. Good job for Highlander there. Even though he's not ahead, Highlander definitely knows the strats. It's clear that he's practiced it. He's doing these rooms, for the most part, completely correct. I've got no complaints about Highlander's gameplay. Or Melis's. Both of these guys definitely know their stuff. Melis falling down a little bit there, which created some lag because it caused those tanks along the bottom to spawn. You generally want to keep the screen scrolled up vertically. That's why Highlander jumped back there a moment ago against the ceiling. He wanted to scroll that screen up. Alright, doing last vertical room on Highlander's side. Nice going. And Mal's taking that ceiling dropper out with the missiles. Good use for missiles right there. Yeah, Highlander's certainly made up a little bit of time. He's catching up just a little bit. He's still got some ground to cover though. More good missile strats from Melis. And on into the boss area. Trying to take intentional damage here because we are going to be doing an intentional death in order to refill the health for the boss fight. One of the harder bosses coming up. There we go. Nice quick death from the toaster. Health refilled. And now we fight Photophage. Highlander not far behind him. Alright, this boss always appears in the same place. The way that the boss pieces move can sometimes vary, but the boss's spawn locations will always be the same, so you should know exactly where to throw your grenades so that you can get a quick fight. And then, there we go. Pretty decent fight there. Had to do a little bit of dancing, but it looks like he kept that whole thing under control. And now Highlander is going to take a shot at it. Oh, going a little rough there. Yeah, you gotta watch your health. Yeah, it's easy to die to this boss. If it gets a little bit out of control, this boss can do a lot of damage to you. Fortunately, Highlander still has another life. That's a really good thing because this is a long way to have to go back. If you game over here, it's going to take you quite a while to get back. One of the worst spots to accidentally game over. Area 3 is a long area. It's making me nervous. Okay, good. He's got it. He's got it. Meanwhile, a string of intentional deaths from Melis trying to get game overs to warp him back so he can continue and warp back to the beginning. First of Area 3, then the beginning of Area 2, then the beginning of Area 1 there. So now here we are back to Area 1. Farm some hover. We need 3 hover drops to be able to make it up towards Area 4. And we need to farm these sine wave flyers to get that hover. Hello, Quick Flash. There's one. You might be able to get that without dropping off the ledge. Yep, okay. Man, not really getting much cooperation here. Oh, stuck. That happens. Okay, so that looked like it was more his fault than it actually was. So once you hit the ground there and you take damage from whatever it is down there, some really dangerous grass apparently, some really harmful grass hits you if you go down there. But once you take some damage from that, it sort of bumps you to the side. You get a little bit of a push, and that push actually knocked him to the left underneath the platform. There's like a little one tile gap, and it knocked him in there where he couldn't get out. And so that was sort of not his fault that it went like that. It's just the way the game deals with you taking damage. But he's got the hover now, and he gave Highlander a chance to catch up. So now it is very close. In fact, I think Highlander is pulled into the lead if you're looking at the timers here. Let's see. It was like 40 seconds, 35. Yeah, so Highlander has pulled ahead by a couple of seconds. And we're in Area 4 briefly. Area 4 is it's an area like any of the others, except in this category we don't need to play it. Just go right through here. We don't need to fight the boss fight. We're going to skip the boss, skip the key and everything. And all that is because of this screen wrap glitch that you're about to see Melis and Highlander do. All you got to do is pretend to enter that door, but then turn around at the last moment. Game doesn't know what to do. So it shoots you away over there on the right side of the screen. You can just cut right through that door. Nice, easy skip. A little bit more screen wrapping now. The purpose of this is to be able to get through these breakable blocks that you see on the floor in the lower left without having the tank. We've left the tank behind in order to do that key skip. So that's why the need for this screen wrapping right here. It appears that Melis is ahead, but I actually think Highlander is slightly ahead at this point. He was at 15 flat going through that door. No, Melis is ahead by like 2 seconds. And no door pause from Highlander there. Interesting. Yeah, Melis, though, a couple seconds ahead. Really close. Alright, pretty good traversal of that room. Let's see if Highlander is able to get that as well. Leaving more enemies alive than I'd like to see. You really need to kill off at least 2 of those swimming enemies at the beginning there, otherwise you get a lot of lag. But here we are in the boss dungeon, and taking a bunch of intentional damage here. The idea is to take a death after going through this door, get your health back, and to use up one of your lives, because we are going to need to do a game over and continue after this boss is dead in order to warp back to the start of the level. The first race, it was reasonably close for a while, and then Highlander had some deaths that set him back far enough that Melis was able to win. But it was close for the first part of the race, I would say. So Melis does the crab boss glitch. Highlander about to do it as well. The idea is you want to pause the game at some point while the screen is fading to black. Highlander manages to get it. Once you do that, you're allowed to exit through that door, even though you're not supposed to be able to exit a boss room once the boss is spawned. Trick the game into letting you exit through that door anyway. And now here we are. Well, I was a little early. But here we are entering Area 6. The ice level. Oh, actually, that was right on. And Highlander finishing off last life, I believe. You have to take a lot of damage from those toasters. Oh, yeah, there he is. Okay. So, maybe about 15 seconds, I think, between these two players right now. Melis already a hefty chunk of the way into Area 6. Highlander enters. Yeah, this tournament would be a much different thing if we were using the US version, just because of that crab boss. That would be the decider of the races. Most races would be decided by how the crab fight went. Now I think there's a lot of factors, some of them BS things like the hover farm, but most of the factors being skill based. And this room, if done well, that's how it's done well. What Melis did was perfect there. Alright. And he does the leap of faith successfully. A little bit risky what Melis did there, but that's the accepted way to do it. Right, and the safe Area 7 skip was another big change to this route. So thank 09 and the other people who have worked on developing the Area 7 skips for that. Melis doing a relatively tricky room. We've seen it trip a few players up, but he gets through there easily. And Highlander coming up, taking the high road there. Highlander coming up on the room with the leap of faith. Let's just make sure. He's probably going to take the high road. Oh, what a weird way to do it. Careful now. Yeah, once you start getting hit by those caterpillars, you could be in some serious trouble, because that damage knockback is brutal. And Melis making his way up through that ice block room, taking a death there. That is faster to take that death than doing a spike death in the boss dungeon, I suppose. We saw that Shining Dragoon actually doesn't take the death there where Malice did. Dragoon takes 2 deaths inside this boss dungeon instead of the usual 1. Yeah, that room that Malice just left, that's the death that Shining Dragoon takes. He takes 1 in that room. I think it's pretty much equivalent. And there is the other death. Pretty much everyone takes the one right here where Malice is. Yeah, Malice's lead is really opened up now. Yeah, he's a good chunk ahead of Highlander. Yeah, let's hope this goes well, because he's on his last life, so he can't afford any mistakes. Alright, successful, no zombie glitch. Malice is in great shape now. And he's down to his last life, and only a couple bars of health, so this is going to be a nice, quick game over here. There we go, warp to the start of Area 6. And back into Area 5, taking some deaths in Area 5 here. You're going to see him taking some deaths in order to make the death warp in Area 4 go a little bit quicker. Colors look different because people have different capture cards. And possibly different settings in their broadcast tools. Whoa, okay, on Highlander side I was not sure what was happening there, but it looks like the boss is dead. Malice, meanwhile, needs to take some deaths by jumping off this ladder here, which he does, and now he's back to Area 1. On emulator, yeah, that could be. That's another thing that's going to cause color differences. Colors on Malice's screen look a little bit dark, actually. So here we are back in Area 1, making our way towards Area 7. I guess I can switch to the Area 1 background. I like to give the Area 4 background a little bit of use while the players are doing their death warps. And back into Area 2. So, both these players headed towards Area 7 now that they have the Wall 1 upgrade. We can actually traverse Area 2 much quicker because of this little shortcut that you see Malice taking right there, shooting his way through those bricks and these bricks. That is a much quicker way of getting through this level than when we played it the first time. Major differences, well, the crab glitch is a bit easier to pull off, and it has unlimited continues. And the Japanese version in general is less laggy. So those are some pretty significant changes, but other than that, the gameplay is identical. So if you know how to run one version, you know how to run both versions. Malice skipped the flashing hover, probably for the best if you're going to go for the skip, but I think unless you're doing both versions, both parts of the Area 7 skip, you still probably do want to get that. Going after that health refill there, I guess. So yeah, Malice, very low on health entering this last area. He's farming these enemies real hard here, trying to get health drop. We may see an accidental death from Malice, which is bad because you really do want to have all your lives here. You want to give yourself an opportunity to get that lava skip without risking a game over. Mellis had a game over in his previous run, didn't he? Pretty sure Mellis had a game over trying to get the lava skips the first time through. So that's why he's on a little bit being cautious here, being on the... For speedruns in general, usually Japanese version is preferred for speedruns because of text differences. But this game doesn't really have any Japanese text in it, even on the Japanese version, besides the title screen, so that doesn't make a difference. Another reason why Japanese versions are often more popular than North American versions for speedrunning is because usually the Japanese version was made first, and after the game is made, they discover all the bugs that they missed. So before they release the North American version or the European version, they go through and fix all the bugs the speedrunners would want to use. So that's why the Japanese version often has some cool glitches. But all the glitches that you're going to see here, besides the easy version of the crab glitch, can be done on the US version. This thing that Mellis is about to do right here, this works just fine on North American Blaster Master. Okay, doing 4 screen wraps here, which every time you do one of these screen wraps, it shifts over the hitboxes of all of the ledges, all of the objects in the world here. So that's why you see Jason walking on air and then falling through ledges. It's because all the hitboxes have been shifted over to the left by 4 tiles. He does a little crawl as he drops off the ledge. Uh-oh, a death from Mellis there means soft lockerino. When you die, you respawn where you entered that room, but since he entered that room inside a wall, he is stuck. Oh, he knows, okay. So the category for this, we call it no reset warps, because on the Japanese version, unlike the North American version, I forgot to mention this, you can hit the reset button and it'll take you back to Area 1 with all of your equipment intact. So Mellis, by hitting the reset button there, did not lose the equipment that he had. Although he may be losing this race now. Highlander is able to keep his pace up. So yeah, anyway, normally in this category you're not allowed to use those reset warps because they cut out quite a bit of time. There are categories where you can use those reset warps, but the category we're using for this tournament you can't. However, we do allow people to reset in the one case of a soft lock. If they soft lock, you can reset. And that's nice because it allows players to go for some of these riskier tricks without worrying that they're going to be completely shut out of the race because of it. So Mellis is not out of it entirely. If something bad happens to Highlander, if he has trouble with these lava skips, so far he made the 2 difficult ones. So pretty exciting here. I think we're going to have, if Highlander can keep this up, I think he's got a lead that is not going to be overcome no matter how bad things get in Area 8. And this last part of the skip is the easy part. Yeah, you gotta continue. When something like that happens, it looks like there's no way you can win. Still keep going, because we've seen this time and time again. It's somebody who, something major happens, they get pretty far behind and they think, oh man, it's hopeless. But then something major happens to their opponent and suddenly they're back in the game again. That's already happened in this tournament a number of times. And we see it basically in any tournament. You see races like that. Mellis going... Oh, look at this, guys. Mellis went left, guys. Here we go. This is the first part of the skip. Most people are not doing this version of the skip in the races because it is a little bit RNG dependent and it's got some dangerous stuff involved. So let's see if Mel's can get this to work. It's not going to put him in the lead, but it is going to shave off a big chunk of time to the point where maybe a game over from Highlander could put Mel's back on top again if he manages to get this. Okay, so this is essentially the same principle. We screen wrap enough that the game allows Jason to get pushed into the next room, which is how he's able to wrap through that wall there. And now he needs to pause. Uh-oh. Well, he died, but you get to keep the tank. He'll respawn at a spot right here by his tank, and he can go and do all that again. But yeah, this trick, while you're not really risking a soft lock with this trick unless you were to pause inside the wall or something like that, you do risk something like that happening. And there are more moving parts. This is a more complicated skip than the other part of this that we saw earlier. And he makes it onto that ledge. Oh, he does not get the drop onto the enemy. So that was, you saw a big distance there that Mel's fell down. And normally that would kill Jason, and actually it did kill Jason. Oh yeah, taking a game over. He's going to go back and try this again. Doesn't have enough lives to do this. But yeah, normally a fall of that distance kills Jason, except what you're trying to do is land on an enemy just before you hit the ground, and you'll end up taking damage from the enemy, and then you hit the ground while you're in your invulnerability after taking damage from the enemy, and that cancels out the fall damage, so you can use some enemy damage to cancel out your fatal fall damage. It's a pretty neat little trick, and I think it's the only way to get this version of the skip to work. Highlander using ceiling strats there. Nice, safe way to do that part of the room. I like it. Mel is having to wait for some bad enemy AI there. Bad enemy RNG there. And now he's got to land on this. Nope. Wait, what? He made it. Okay, he's all good. He's all good. So now it's part 2 of the skip. Well done. Highlander already halfway through Area 8. By this point, he's in the second to last room of this dungeon. I really wrapped up on watching Mel's do the skips here. But he does manage to get into the boss dungeon here, takes his intentional death, and now he's going to do some lava skips. Hopefully. But he's certainly... Uh-oh. Game over in the lava trying to get that skip there, so I'd say Melis is pretty much finished now. And Highlander coming into this last area. Well, he hasn't forfeited. Maybe he's waiting to see if something bad happens to Highlander. But this is the final boss, and he's got at least another life left, so I can't see this boss going that badly that he doesn't finish right now. Here we're doing a different grenade pause than the ones we saw earlier. In this case, what's happening is we're able to pause and unpause while the grenade is damaging the boss. And the grenade won't continue to damage the boss while paused like it does in some of the other areas. So you can't do the true grenade pause, but you can do a grenade double hit. So essentially you throw a grenade, damages the boss, You pause, then you unpause, and the grenade explosion is still there, even though the boss's iframes have worn off, so that same grenade explosion hits the boss again. So you're essentially getting 2 hits out of every grenade, just simply by mashing grenade plus pause. But there we go. Highlander takes out this boss using the lower right corner strats, and we've gone 1-1. So we will be moving into a third match here to determine the winner, a third race rather, to determine the winner of this. So real nice performance there from Highlander. Who improved his race PB by almost 5 minutes. His SRL PB was improved by almost 5 minutes there. Only one. All right, well, we're moving into the third race here. These guys are going to start a new race channel, and we'll pop in there and get the tiebreaker going. Give these guys a moment to catch their breath. Both are going to 3. Yeah, you're in luck. You happen to see 2 tight ones then. If you caught the other match that went to the third race. Yep, same music. It's got the same music in the Japanese and the US versions. This is not one of those ones that has, a revamped soundtrack or anything. The opening music? Oh, is the opening music in the J version? You're correct, Quick Flash. I think that it is not. I think it may be lacking that. Because it doesn't have the little demo sequence that it goes through. Or does it? No, I mean, it doesn't have the little frog and kid jumping on the whole thing. Link to the Past tournament start back up. There's going to be a match right after this. There's going to be a Link to the Past race. Let's see, Link to the Past. We've got Parisian Player versus FreakZ92 coming up next, actually. Yep. Bye, Fred the Frog. Okay, they're readied up. Looks like they're ready to go. Okay, race about to begin. Here we go, third and final race of this match between HighlanderGCB and Melis. Make sure to follow both of these runners. Let's put those links in the chat so you guys get that. There you go. And they're off. We've got, well, both. Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't look like his timer started on the Highlander's side. But it does look like Melis started about, I mean, on the screen, as we're seeing the screens, he's about 5 seconds ahead, Melis. So we'll just have to make sure to subtract about 5 seconds from his progress when we're comparing the two. Yeah, in the first race it was Melis with no timer, and in this race it's Highlander with no timer. That's alright though, you get in the race and you know, this window's got focus instead of that window and your timer doesn't start. I've been there. Oh, well, hopefully that won't distract him too much. Hopefully, I'm sure he's noticed at this point, but he's probably going to try to put that out of mind. Can't be worried about stream setup issues while you're doing a race. Okay, so making their way through this section, these guys are going to gradually switch over to the missiles. They have in the menu there, you can select which of the sub-weapons you want to use. Sub-weapons only apply to the tank, not in these overhead sections, but now is a good opportunity to start equipping those missiles ahead of time because you are going to need them. Got Melis fighting the Mother Brain boss, and Highlander about to do the same. Okay, in area 2, so let's get the background switched. There we go. Not much really left to be said about this. I think I've said all that's necessary about area 2. So we can just sit back and watch these guys take these enemies out. Neither of these players, I think, had run Blaster Master before this tournament. I'm pretty sure these guys both picked it up for this, or at least decided to pick up Blaster Master around the time that this tournament was announced. And you can tell already that these guys have turned into some pretty solid players. We saw Mellis has a great PB from what we saw before, and he's certainly able to play at that level in a race. And Highlander has been putting together really solid runs in these races too. Even the one that he didn't win, he still kept pace really well through most of it until, you know, he had a big catastrophe at the Frog. Alright, coming down through this gray room. This is a fun little room, hard one to get right. Into the boss area. Mel is somehow way ahead now. Okay, and Mel's taking intentional death here right before the boss, just trying to use up his lives in the fastest way possible. That's a nice, convenient place to do it. And there we go, through the boss for Mellis, and Highlander about to deal with that boss. Oh. Trying again here. Highlander not really having his best game in this third match. Off to a rough start, but you know what? We certainly could see an upset at this point because there's a lot of things that can go wrong that can end up turning into a game over in a spot that doesn't save time. So I'm not going to count Highlander out at this point. Mellis has had some trouble. In an earlier race, he had a game over in Area 7 trying to do the lava skip, so something like that. It certainly set him back enough that Highlander can make up the difference. He's maybe a minute behind. Item to upgrade the tank. Yeah, that's why you stand in the middle of the boss. That's where the item that he drops appears. You just want to be right on top of it when it appears. Alright, this room that Highlander's in here, sometimes it's helpful to get a hover drop in that room, but it looks like you didn't get one. And Mel's making his way through one of the laggiest rooms in this area, and maybe one of the laggiest rooms in the whole game. Some real tricky platforming in here, and a lot of places where you're going to end up losing frames if you don't do your platform jumps efficiently. Alright, so far so good here. Mel's a little low on health. I wouldn't be too worried about it at this point, but yeah, this is a room where if you were to take death, it could set you back quite a ways, possibly enough, almost certainly enough for Highlander to catch up. Mel's were to die in the later part of this room, but it looks like he makes it through no problem. And the nice thing is Jason has a separate health bar from the tank. Jason's health and the tank's health are not related. So he, despite his low health, is now back to full health as he does this Jason part. Yes, you should stay tuned to this channel to watch a Link to the Past race after this. It's going to be Parisian Player versus Freak Z. In the Link to the Past No Major Glitches tournament. That's coming up next. In fact, we've got a couple of Link to the Past matches today and a couple of Blaster Master matches today. Although I think maybe the Blaster Master match that's later might get rescheduled because one of the players injured his finger, I think, on a spot where it makes it really inconvenient to play. So we may actually end up needing to give him some extra time to get his matches done to let that heal up. Melis taking this boss out. Oh, he misses one of them, but he cleans it up nicely and makes it through with a little bit of health left. So there we go. Highlander, I'm just trying to figure out what was happening there. Maybe he wasn't happy with the amount of damage he'd taken. He wanted to take a little more. Now he's clearly not sure what to do. I think he wants to actually get through here with full health, because he's not planning on taking the death. He wants to have all his lives for Photophage. That is a really tricky boss, Photophage, so I guess I'm not going to blame him for wanting to play it safe, but he's certainly looking at a considerable time loss for that. And Melis right now is in the suicide section of this run. There's a couple of places here where you've got to use up all your lives to game over, warp back to the beginning of the area, then do the same thing in the next area, eventually making your way back to the beginning of Area 1, where Melis is right now. Highlander fighting Photophage. So far, so good. Oh, wow. Wow, yeah, that's he had one of the really quick patterns, and the lower left spawn ended up moving upwards really fast on him, and almost got away from him there. But Highlander doing a great job reacting and staying on top of that boss. So there we go. Now Highlander's going to start the suicide section, while Melis is getting no love from these flyers here. And there's the H, but can you get that safely? Can you get that H safely? He wants it. I don't think it's... Oh, yeah, I was going to say that when you fall off one of those ledges and land into that grass with your tank, it kind of knocks you to the side. So it looks like it should be really easy just to hop down there and then hop up again and grab that H. But it is not easy at all to get that. So I was looking at that thinking, man, I wouldn't go for that. I would just wait for the next one. But who knows, if I was in the race, maybe I would be tempted to do that. So there's his third and final H. He can't afford to take the Death Warp. I think technically he can't afford to take that Death Warp. It may be better to do that and do Deathless Area 6 dungeon. Or sorry, Deathless Area 5 dungeon. I probably would have taken that death, but that's okay. And there we go, hovering all the way up there. But the huge lead that Melis had has now been eaten up. If Highlander doesn't... he's getting some pretty terrible luck. Highlander's having an awful hover grind over here. And he hops out of the tank with Jason. That's the fastest way to die if you're not low on tank health. So yeah, I would say Highlander just cut about half of that distance that he was trailing He just cut half of that out. So much closer now. Mellis gets the screen wrap to skip the key. And here he is on into Area 5. So we're going to see 3 more screen wraps here, and this is done in order to get by these breakable blocks without having the tank. These screen wraps are fun to do. You can do them on any door. Any door that you can walk through as Jason in the side-scrolling sections, you can do that screen wrap on. Can't do it in the tank, and you can't do it in the overhead sections. Yeah, they do inhibit your controls. Anytime you take damage, your tank is really hard to control while your iframes are happening. Alright, Mel's triggering that shell to go right instead of left. That's a good move there. It's going to make that last section a lot less laggy. And here we go. He kills off one of those ninja swimmers, 2 of them. That's great. That's what you need to do to reduce the lag. Yeah, and he gets that 3rd one, so that's all he needs for making this lagless descent here. The artwork is great. It was Scavenger216 who made the backgrounds for this. I think they're really solid. I like how he gives us a little sampling of the side-scrolling sections and a little sampling of the overhead sections. Yeah, real good stuff. So Mellis coming into this section here, he has an extra life. Oh, wait, yeah, he has an extra life to burn off because he did not. He had that the unintentional death, but then he skipped the intentional death that you would normally take after that. So he could do that death right there to get his health refilled for this crab boss fight. You don't really need to have full health for this when you're playing on the J version. It's much more important on the North American version where you're not guaranteed to get this crab skip. But because it's a race, I'm not going to fault any of these players for playing this part of it really safe. Because right now, Mellis is not that far ahead of Highlander, and he could easily lose this game. If he had a death in an unexpected place. So Crab Boss is down, and he gets the item. Highlander out here, doing a little bit of cleanup out here in this area where he's about to fight the boss, just getting rid of everything ahead of time. You want to kill, if you're going to kill these enemies off rather than just leaving them, you want to do it before you spawn the boss, not after. Because after doing this crab glitch, there we go, did he get it? There we go, yeah. So after doing this glitch, if you don't immediately run over to where the boss is, and the boss actually starts to move, you can end up getting stuck, because the way that this game works, it'll actually push Jason away from the boss once the boss starts to move, like being on a giant conveyor belt. So you can end up unable to fight the boss, because you can't even walk over to him. So that's why you got to get there quick. And background change. They're pretty much synced. I think there's maybe 5 seconds of desync between them. So Mellis does have a pretty legitimate lead, although Highlander has managed to catch up quite a bit in the last couple stages. But here we go, ice physics time. Exactly. Yeah, so not very much game left. We got this ice level, and then we've got the fire level, and then we've got the alien level. That's it. Just 3 more stages, and these guys are already halfway through this stage, so we're getting close to the end here. Not a lot of game left for Highlander to make his move, or for Mellis to make his mistake. Oh man, see, something like that right there, that jump that Mellis just made, he didn't need to go for that jump. There's a less risky strat that is essentially the same speed. And he could have lost his lead entirely right there. he had missed that jump. Did Melis pick up the homing missiles? I might have missed it, but I don't know if he did. Homing missiles are worth picking up, even in the J version route. They're more useful in the North American version because you actually have to backtrack to exit this area. You can't use a game over to warp your way out. There we go, putting that missile to use right there, taking off a caterpillar in an awkward spot. That's why you still want to get the homing missiles even in this version of the game. Because even if that's the only legitimate use for it in the route, I think still worth it just for that. Okay. No, not quite get it. Yeah, Melis could have been in trouble there. Sometimes when you have Jason jump off a ledge, if you accidentally take damage from something, you could cancel out your fatal fall damage and end up with Jason still alive but stuck in a spot where he's unable to get back to his tank. There's a couple places in this game where you can hop out of the tank and get to some place where there's no way to get back. And Jason will just be stuck, and you can't take any damage from any enemies if there aren't any around. So you end up essentially being soft-locked even though you have full control of your character, just because your tank is someplace you can't reach. And that'll happen sometimes if you try to do a suicide jump but an enemy hits you on the way down and prevents you from suiciding. Well, Melis taking another intentional death there on the spikes, down to his last life. Okay, Melis finishes that boss just as Highlander is entering that dungeon, so still a pretty significant lead. Some deaths here from Melis as he makes his way back. Let's put up the cave background, why not? Back into Area 4. Need to take an intentional game over here in order to get back through this area without having the key. Highlander grenade pausing this boss, whatever you want to call it. He had a... Oh no! Is that a zombie? That's a zombie glitch, guys. Okay, so what happened there? It'll die eventually. He's just got to knock it hit. Oh, why did he go to the top left corner? That's so dangerous. Oh man, you guys have no idea how close that was. Oh, you can probably tell by watching. That was not a situation I would have wanted to be in. Oh my goodness. And I love how he went up into the top left corner and then just got immediately boxed in there. Just wrong back. Yeah, zombie in the J version. Quick flash, this happened yesterday too. Someone got a zombie at that boss. A full zombie like that. Not even like the partial zombie glitch where it just takes a long time to die. Like one where it was actually moving and firing projectiles while it was exploding. Full zombie glitch. Alright, we'll switch. Okay, so the reason that zombie glitch happens, the lag in the game will sometimes, if you're getting lag just as the boss is dying, it will sometimes cause the boss to skip whatever the mechanism is that detects that the boss is dead. If you get lag at just the wrong moment, it'll actually skip that decision of marking the boss dead, and the boss will be alive for a while, and you have to wait for it to go through a full cycle. In this case, he has to like bounce off the bottom wall and then come back up, or the right wall rather, and then come back up to the top again. and then it'll finally trigger as being dead. There are things you can do to make that end a little sooner, hitting the boss with some grenades, or sometimes just spamming the pause button, or sometimes just spamming the grenade button. Various combinations of things like that that create lag can sometimes end up knocking you out of zombie mode a little sooner. With his timer, I guess he just didn't start it. Probably didn't. The wrong window had focus when he began the run, I would think. So here we are in Area 7. This is the fire area, or lava area here. Also the area with the most rockin' music, according to some people. I'm not going to render an opinion on this. 2 runs in a row. Yeah, it does still happen. You will still get it on the J version, but it is less frequent because there's less lag in general on the Japanese version. And lag is what causes the zombie glitch to happen. Melo's taking the health refill route, even though that is a few frames slower. Typically, you would only do it if you really needed that health drop, which he shouldn't if he's going to be going for the Area 7 skip. Although, with the lead that Melis has over Highlander, if he wants to get this race on lock, he should probably not do the skip. So, if I were him, I would actually just finish this level out normally, because it is not that much of a time savings. We already know that Highlander doesn't go for that skip. Or maybe he will. He could go for that skip. He doesn't always go for the skip. We've seen him just go right past it, but I guess we don't know that he wouldn't do it. But even so, even if Highlander were to get the skip and Melis were not to do it at all, I think that there's still no way Melis can lose as long as he manages to stay alive. Yeah, and he is skipping the skip, so we are going to get to see this level completed the normal way. Coming into the final corridor, Area 7. Skipping the skip. Yeah, the Area 7 skip. I'm really good at that. Or maybe we can have the Area 7 skip. Where you should have skipped the Area 7 skip, but you do it anyway. Oh, Highlander needing to pause and unpause in order to clear out, or to replace those blocks that he cleared out where he should have. That fixed up. Fortunately, you can do that. And there we go. Melis entering the boss area, still well ahead. Good move there by him, skipping the skip. And now he's got to not screw up these lava boosts. There we go. He had a bit of trouble with that in his first race. There we go, making short work of those lava skips there. And this final one should be free if you just hold up on the D-pad. There you go. So, this boss should be safe as long as you stick to the frog butt. Stick to the frog butt, and this is going to be a safe fight. Team frog butt. There he is. Okay, he gets the grenade pause. He's probably, yeah, he was a little bit high up. He maybe had a slightly different audio than what he was expecting there, but I could be wrong. And then back in the drink here. To use up your extra lives. It's not so bad to save your extra lives for after the boss rather than finding someplace to die on the way to the boss. In fact, it's such a quick death here to hop into the lava that I completely agree with that strategy. Not trying to find a death somewhere else in the level that saves you frames, because just not worth it. The risk. Alright, he gets an H drop off the first pink caterpillar. Nope. Look at that. Okay, so when you're switching from a wall to a floor, or from a wall to a ceiling, you're for just a moment unable to pick up power-ups. You'll just go right through them. Just like turns off your collision detection while the tank is going around a corner. Very silly. You can also soft lock yourself if you get hit by an enemy as your tank is going around a corner too. Just some really silly little soft locks that can happen. Okay, Highlander coming up on this frog boss. Yep, Melis in the lead right now, coming into on his way to Area 8, while Highlander is still finishing off Area 7. Oh, he was early on the... Wait, what? Oh, I thought he was... Okay, there we go. Now he's got the grenade pause. And Melis successfully makes it across this... Whoa, danger. Okay, successfully makes it across the ceiling without getting knocked off by one of those flyers. That is a big time loss, but still probably not enough that he would lose the race because of that. An unfortunate game over in Area 8 might cause Melis to lose the race still, but honestly, you're going to want to put your money on Melis for this race. And there we go, the little... I forget whose version of the spike clip that is, but there we go. Not going to do ceiling strats here. And he's got plenty of hover for the spike room. There you go. And he's got a fair amount of health. He should be able to make it through the hellway. Hopefully he gets good drops from these caterpillars. Fortunately, the caterpillars do not do very much. They do less than a bar of damage to you. It's really the spikes you got to worry about. The spikes will do 2 damage to you. So yeah, he actually had a net gain of health there, because he had some pretty decent drops and executed really well in that room. One of the hardest in the game, if not the hardest. And here he is in the large intestine. Second last room of Area 8. With this amount of health, there's nothing really to be worried about other than the jam lock. I think it's really only if you're coming in here with low health do you have anything to be concerned with. And Highlander still hasn't gotten his H drop, but there he is. He gets it from the sprinkler. He's being a little cautious here, trying to make sure he doesn't get knocked off the ceiling. Yeah, 2 hovers. I know, that's way more hovers than a person needs. Come on. Alright, Melis taking the path that's going to get him a health refill. Or not. Highlander not going for the pink caterpillar that can drop hover. That's the third and final opportunity to get hover in here. But here we go. Mel's taking out the first form of the final boss. Looks like he has his positioning just right. And that was a real clean fight. The boulders stay out of his way. Highlander coming up on the spike skip, though. Is he going to do it, or is he just going to take the damage? He gets it. Nice. Nice going, Highlander. See, he definitely knows the strats. This guy knows the game real well. He's just had a couple unfortunate things happen to him in his races. And Melis fighting the flashing pants. He's got a lot of health, so even if he lets up on his mash a little bit, he should be fine. There we go, that thing's finished off. 33:21, pretty solid for a race time. And Highlander making his way through the hellway. Wants to finish off a run here. He has not hit the ending screen in any of the runs today, so this is going to be good for him. But yeah, both these players really played well. They sure showed that they've learned the route. They're not shying away from the difficult strats. A lot of potential here. his way across the ceiling. Really the last challenging part of the game right there, and he's through it. Not much health left, but it does not matter at this point. Nothing can kill him. Maybe unless he accidentally falls into the spikes in this room. We have seen that happen in a race, but if you're careful, that's not going to happen to you. There we go. Jason's got full health, so it doesn't matter what his tank's health was. At 0 second PB. Beat the game in 0 seconds. That's got to be a PB. Alright, this boss is all about positioning. You got to be in the spot where you can hit that head regardless of whether it goes up or down. And you also got to hope that you don't get hit by these boulders too much. The boulder pattern he's getting is not great. A little bit of adjustment. Finishes off that boss, but very low on health. He's going to go with the lower right stance here, trying to get the boss lured into this corner. This is a safe spot. The problem is, oh, there you go. The problem is if you are not in exactly the right spot, then it becomes very much an unsafe spot. So you're almost better off just doing the flashing pants strat, where the only thing it depends on is your mashing speed and not your positioning. But he seems to have it. Oh, wow, watch out. Yeah, he seems to have the spot. There we go. Alright, so Highlander wins this. Or sorry, Highlander wins this game, or this the game here, but Mellis wins this match, wins this race, and wins the match overall. But he seems to have so Highlander got one win against Mellis, and I really think that this could have gone either way. Another race on another day, and we might see Highlander have won this. But today, Mellis is the winner, and that's what counts. Highlander wins this. Or sorry, we're doing round robin in this. Each of the contestants is divided up into one of our 4 groups, and everyone in each group plays everyone else in that group. So that's how our round robin works. And then at the end of the round robin phase, the top 2 people in each of the groups moves on. So of the 4 groups, there'll be 2 people from each. So we've got an 8-person single elimination playoff at the end. So the top 8 players are going to advance. So with a victory under his belt in, I think, his first match, Highlander has already done a match, but I think this is Mellis's first one. So Mellis is off to a good start. 2 people in each of the groups moves on. So of the 4 groups, there'll be 2 people. Shoot, he is echoing, huh? Let me cut that out. Playoff at the end. So the okay. So that's it for this race. Coming up next here, we have a Link to the Past race, which I'm going to get right into. So just give me a moment while I switch the scene over. Make sure you follow these runners. Put on a great show for us today. Give them both a follow. The masses demand Link to the Past. I know. Everyone wants to see Link to the Past. We got it coming for you. Alright. Thanks very much, guys. Yeah, we got kind of a late start. We went over a little bit here, so we'll get right into that race. So the Zelda guys who've been waiting are able to start here. So just give me a few, and we'll be up.